was born in early January 1944 as a human being of the male sex, in a catacomb doubling as a bomb shelter. My mother, pregnant with me, had hidden in its labyrinth. English planes had bombed the small village above this ancient Byzantine burial place. I was born in the winter of 1968 in Bulgaria, in a world full of hope. I remember the year 1968 in detail, from start to finish. The revolution, the Prague Spring, the Russian tanks.
I have always been born.
I was born as a fruit fly, 2 hours before sunrise. I'll die this evening after sundown. I still remember the beginning of the Ice Age and the end of the Cold War. In both epochs, the sight of the dying dinosaurs is one of the most unbearable things I have seen. I remember being born as a cranberry shrub, as a nightingale, as a ginkgo biloba, a cloud in July, an early cherry blossom frozen by a late April snow, as a snail. I am us.
I am us.
But there is only childhood and death between the two. Nothing. I'm approaching the border. Through the window of the train, I see the trees of home. In a flash between the 6th and the 7th tunnel of the railroad I've known forever, I see the waterfall I always looked for as a child.
Ladies and gentlemen, see the great python, 3 meters from head to tail, and from tail to head.
The circus is back in our village. A magician makes my hat disappear.
Step right up, a child with the head of a bull, a marvel like no other, the Minotaur of the Labyrinth, just 12 years old.
Instead of buying cotton candy, I get into the tent. It's dark inside. It's like in the labyrinth. Such a sad-looking boy. I wonder why there are no children in Greek mythology. The only ones that ever appear get eaten. Kronos, Tantalus, Tereus, Zeus, Demeter. They all ate their children, and the Minotaur hidden away in the labyrinth devoured 7 virgins every 9 years. The Minotaur imprisoned in a labyrinth by King Minos, shame of his family, offspring of the queen Pasiphae, and the bull. Enter the hero Theseus, intent on killing the Minotaur. The Minotaur's sister Ariadne gave Theseus a sharp sword and a ball of string. A terrible battle ensued. I'm trying to unwind Ariadne's thread in my labyrinth. An alarm clock, a toothbrush, a doll, a toy car, a woman's hat, a makeup kit, an electric razor, a pipe. What could contain such a collection of random things? A suitcase, most likely. To whom would that suitcase belong? A woman? A man? A girl because of the doll. Or maybe a boy, given the toy car. It doesn't matter. I'm dumbstruck watching the circus acrobats. There's a girl who must be my age. She gets up on her father's shoulders. For a moment, my heart stops. And then she leaps into the air. 1, 2, and a half. A huge smile on her face. She's pretty, the little acrobat. I'll lock you up in the basement if you're not back by 8:30, says my father. That was the worst punishment of my whole childhood. To be locked in the cellar, in the dark and the cold, with the rats and spiders. Like the Minotaur. But even that threat couldn't stop me from jumping on my old bike and pedaling across town with my friends to the fairgrounds. To see the circus and complete our collections of bubblegum wrappers, Western movie photos, and plastic toy soldiers. I met my acrobat princess on one of those escapades. By day, she worked in a shooting gallery. She let me have free turns. And later, we went off to have ice cream.
Tous les garçons et les filles de mon âge se promènent dans la rue de Paris. Tous les garçons et les filles de mon âge savent bien ce que c'est qu'être heureux. Et les yeux dans les yeux, et la main dans la main. Ils s'en vont amoureux, sans peur du lendemain. Oui, mais moi,
2 days of bliss. On the last evening before the circus left town, we sat in a caravan. We blew bubblegum bubbles. That's when I got my first kiss. Her lips were hotter than fire. Her name was Plamina. I didn't sleep a single second that night. When dawn broke, I set off to say a last goodbye. I mounted my bike and rode like crazy through the empty streets. To the spot where the circus tent had been. But the circus had left. There was only the sand of the circus rings and the bubblegum wrapper. She was gone. And I never saw her again. My only souvenir from my first and greatest love is the bright paper wrapper of that bubblegum. Needless to say, the basement was waiting for me when I got home. I didn't care. I clutched the gum wrapper against my heart, thinking about my pretty acrobat. I often looked for that circus with its family of acrobats in my Plamina. I'd take my bike and ride it to the ends of the earth to find her. Sometimes it seemed like I could still touch her black hair. She had different names. She spoke foreign languages. Sometimes we'd smile at each other after. Other times she'd chase me with a knife. Once she lit a cigarette and just walked away. But I never, ever got a bubblegum wrapper at the end. That's how I knew it wasn't her. I began to get used to the darkness. To stop being afraid of the dark, I turned off all the lights in my bedroom. I came to like it. In the dark, I can make up anything I want. It's like being at the movies. I hate it when my father comes in and turns the lights back on. I remember my first real encounter with death. I was in our yard, watching my grandfather try to fix our old motorbike. Suddenly, he dropped like a brick. My parents took me to my cousin's. He was the only one with an army of tin soldiers, when all the other kids had cheap plastic soldiers and Indians. Later, my uncle came to get me. He said, "He's dead." For me, death will always look like a little tin soldier. Years later, there I am, a soldier as well. Standing in front of us in the morning, Major Batsanov repeats. Things are gonna get worse. They're not gonna get better. So this is a great day for you cockroaches. The young soldiers are impressed. The older ones are mostly thinking about how to get over the barbed wire fence at night to spend a few minutes with a woman. I was never good at gymnastics, but one thing I learned in the army was how to clear a barbed wire fence. If you weren't an acrobat, you'd either wind up in the hole or your balls would catch on the barbed wire, flapping up there like a flag. Under the command of Major Batsanov, we all became acrobats in the Circus of Desire. A garter belt, a can opener, a toaster, a typewriter, a radio. Could this be a museum warehouse? The list continues. The Bible, the Quran, Homer's Iliad, Dante's Inferno, sound clips of cartoon characters like Popeye and hog-calling champs, recordings of the voices of Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Benito Mussolini, and Franklin Roosevelt, microfilms and projectors with electric generators to operate them. A writer's den? No, it's a time capsule. All these objects were buried 50 feet underground on September 23, 1938 in the world's most famous time capsule, engineered by Westinghouse Electric for the New York World's Fair. A plate on the capsule was engraved with these words, "Not to be opened for 5,000 years." This craze for preserving time in containers broke out just before time itself confronted us. The Second World War erupted just a few years later. Major Batsanov, things are gonna get worse, they're not gonna get better. So carpe diem it is, I muttered to myself. A bit too loud. Major Batsanov had keen hearing. What? Carpe diem, I repeated. For insulting a superior officer, latrine duty and 3 days in the hole. With no shoes and no lights. Instead of jumping the fence to see my new Ariadne, I spent the night in the dark, punished for the few words of Latin I knew. Fuck me. I'm still there in the dark. Instead of being with the woman of my dreams, the one waiting for me at the Blue Cafe, I decide to jump out the window and escape. I slice my foot. I run to my Ariadne. Of course, I leave a trail of blood in the snow. There was no red thread in the labyrinth. Ariadne didn't give a damn whether Theseus made it out or not. He cut his own foot to leave a trail in the labyrinth. That is how he found his way out.
We can dance if we want to. We can leave your friends behind. 'Cause your friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, well, they're no friends of mine. See, we can go where we want to, places they will never find. And we can act like we come from out of this world, leave the real one far behind. We can dance.
I didn't find my Ariadne that night. She left with some rock star instead of waiting for her soldier. I told myself, big deal. She's not the first. She won't be the last.
Night is young and so am I. And we can dress real neat from our hearts to our feet and surprise them with a victory cry. Say, we can act if we want to. If we don't, nobody will. And you can act real blue.
I saw her a few years later. I couldn't believe I'd cut my foot for her. A list of my collections. Little plastic soldiers, badges, commemorative matchboxes, Western movie photos, marbles, BB Turkish bubblegum wrappers, a collection of pictures of cars from those bubblegum wrappers. All these things stayed in the family home when I immigrated to Montreal. No childhood artifact or memory crossed the ocean. I started a new, object-free life, an abstract existence. Sitting on the floor of an empty apartment, 2 suitcases, a telephone by my side, and a chair found in the alley. I spoke neither French nor English. I had chosen to move to Montreal, as far as possible from my country, my family, my memories, my childhood, my loves, my belongings. When you move, objects are deprived of their everyday use. They're in a cardboard box labeled kitchen, bathroom, bedroom number 1. Farewell. A new apartment, new farewells. The moves of my student years. Post-divorce move. Moving to other countries. Coming back. A new apartment. An entire life can be told as a catalog of moves. I learned how to read English in the Côte de Neige cemetery. One could say it was the dead who taught me how to read. I was walking along a path among the tombstones. The first words I learned, peace, eternal, here, born, died, God, memory. Nervously, I traced the outlines with my finger, and names, many names. Carpe diem. Here, I'm nobody. I don't even know my own name anymore. Here, my name translates 3 different ways. Plato said that objects and people are deeply connected to their names. Since I have 3 different names, I must be connected to 3 different versions of me. I am us.
I am us.
Feel like a stranger here. We are all immigrants. Immigrants, if only from my childhood. We've all left it behind with its playthings, marbles, toy car collections. In the end, the only place I really feel at home is on a plane. Between 2 countries, between heaven and earth. Even if I do feel alone in my narrow seat, aisle or window, it has no importance. I grab my suitcase. There's a sticker on it. There's a grocery store in Montreal called Bucharesti. Since the Cold War, time has stood still there. All the goods are the same ones we had in the last years of communism. Today, they aren't even found in their country of origin. Some are manufactured in small factories in the suburbs of Montreal, with identical designs on their labels. They feed the nostalgia of Eastern European immigrants. Romanian soap, Hungarian paprika, Serbian ivar, Soviet kefir and candies. It's more museum than grocery store. The museum of nostalgia and sorrow. That's where suddenly I receive a message from my mother. Your father is sick, hospitalized. Call home. I'm at the cash register paying for my Ivar and Kashkaval. The English-speaking cashier addresses me in Romanian. I answer in Russian. I assemble my own time capsule in a suitcase. It will contain a beep-beep bubblegum wrapper, a photo of a Targa-top Lamborghini silhouette, a tin soldier, a jar of Ivar. The train approaches Kustendil, the town in which I was born. As always, my heart is pounding. Will my father be there as usual, waiting at the station? We arrive, the train comes to a stop. The old station with its century-old trees. Time has stopped here. Only my father ages in this unchanging town. Every country has its Major Batsanov. An entire army of Major Batsanovs keeps order in this world. The Batsanovs lead and give orders. They don't ask who or why. If a commissar commands the destruction of the world, Major Batsanov will give the order without a second thought. Nuclear, Batsanov calls out. Nuclear bomb. It's the signal for us to put our gas masks on. We've got 12 seconds. If you can't get it on, you're dead. In my mind, that's how long it takes for the world to end, exactly 12 seconds. Those who can manage to get their masks on will survive. Everyone else will die. I wonder if my father will manage now that his reflexes have slowed. With the gas mask, he looks a lot like a minotaur. What do you call the compulsion to make lists? To tell stories through lists? A fear of forgetting? My father had that illness at the end. He would go out and lose his way in the streets. Most often he could be found at the train station, standing there, watching the trains. My worst nightmare is that one day I'll end up just like that, except at an airport, watching the planes land and take off. I won't remember where I was headed. Worst of all, I'll have forgotten where to return. Hotel rooms are perfect, memory-free places. The ideal hotel room betrays no prior presence. Cleaning after checkout is above all the wiping out of memory. Nothing is as sterile as forgetting. I did everything I could to make my family work. But my sorrow, instead of dissipating, deepened. I became increasingly withdrawn. At those times, all I wanted was to spare my daughter. I started accepting every invitation I got for film festivals. Other countries, other cities. Same sorrow. Before I left, my daughter gave me her favorite dinosaur. I've kept it with me ever since. A few years later, I read in her diary, my father and the dinosaurs disappeared at the same time. How are you? How's it going? How am I? I'm not. Period. To be opened after the end of the world, there must be something that remains, though. Something he could use to start over. The day after the apocalypse, there will be no news, no newspapers. How ironic. The most significant event in the whole history of humanity will get no media attention. Nobody will post on their Facebook page, "The world has ended." I died in late 2019. I died in December 2057. I remember nothing. I died as a fruit fly at dusk. I have always been dead. I remember dying as a cranberry shrub, as a nightingale, as a ginkgo biloba, a cloud in July, an early cherry blossom frozen by a late April snow, as a snail. I was us.
I was us.